So the Jehovah's Witnesses showed up at my door. And like I said, thinking that just the night before on Saturday that I accepted Jesus, I thought God sent them. And I had no idea that they were a cult. Now, I studied with the Jehovah's Witnesses for 10, 11 months. Sold my life out to them and their organization, the Watchtower organization. Now, when I started to study with the Jehovah's Witnesses, this is what happened, and this is the truth, and it's verified by my witnesses, especially my bride. When I started to study with them, I had this compulsion that came over me, and the compulsion was that no matter where I was when this compulsion came over me, wherever I was, if I saw a journal, a magazine, a news article, whatever it was in a written word, I knew that I had to get this. I had to get this information. I would do anything to get it, to take it home, pay whatever I needed to pay for it. I would even beg. I was a nutcase. My wife said I was a nutcase. Now, I would take this information, no matter what it was, and I would stick it in my dresser drawers. I wouldn't even read it. Now, I did this for the whole time that I was studying as a Jehovah's Witness. And so you can imagine my dresser drawer, and it wasn't too funny for my wife, but my dresser drawer, and I believe I had 6 drawers, deep drawers, and I threw all this information that I was gathering that I never read and stuck it in my drawer. And at the end of the 10 months, my wife couldn't even stick my clothes in the dresser drawers because I was saving so much of the stuff that she couldn't put anything in there. And so she asked me to see a doctor. She thought I was sick, and it wasn't a very pleasant time for either one of us, and I just knew, I was so adamant about her not throwing this away, and she didn't do it. Thank God that she didn't do it, but this was all part of the Lord's plan. And so what had happened is, to make a long story short, and we can have some other videos that explain about the Jehovah's Witnesses, but after almost 10 months of studying with the Jehovah's Witnesses and my wife getting sick because she thought that there was something strange about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the only time that my wife went to the Kingdom Hall with me was that one time when they had one of their saints, they call their saints, or anointed ones, of the 144,000 as we see in the book of Revelation. And these are the leaders or people that proclaim that they are one of the 144,000 that will be able to go into heaven. Nobody else will be able to go into heaven. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, you can't go into heaven if you're not one of those 144,000. But they had, the day that she went, there was an elder, one of these 144,000, and he talked about a prophecy of 1968 that was to be fulfilled in 1975. And according to the Watchtower Society, that God spoke to them and told them that you are going to see the fulfillment of this. And in 1975, Jesus Christ was going to physically come and rule in Jerusalem. That never happened, obviously. Now, this elder, this anointed guy from the Watchtower Society, was trying to explain some of the issues behind this. But the fact of the matter is, my wife caught it, and I didn't. I just let it go over my head. I mean, when you're blinded by Satan, you don't see things until God really wants to intervene and take you out. And my heart, at least, was open. So when we got home, my wife says, I want you to pray. I want you to pray about this. I don't want you to seek help. I want you to go talk to a rabbi, a pastor, or anybody. Just go and get some help, because what they said is very alarming. And so I lied to her. I said, okay, I will, and I had no plans to do. Now, I'm just going to leave out a whole bunch of here, but I ran into a pastor who was on my, just moved onto my mail route that I had gotten. and the pastor was a pastor from Calvary Chapel Church. And that was, I had a whole bunch of mail that I was going to send back, because the house is empty, and that was the last day I was going to bring all this mail out to this house. But that day, there was occupancy in this house, and it turned out to be the pastor of Calvary Chapel. And his wife came to the door when I knocked on the door, and she said, or I asked her, I have this mail for Calvary Chapel, or Greg, the name of it was Greg Meeks, pastor from Calvary Chapel at that time. And she said, that's my husband, he's a pastor. And I said, well, that's great, I fellowship. And she said, where? And I said, at the Kingdom Hall. And she said, can you wait a minute? So she shut the door, and then a few seconds later, whatever, the pastor came out, and he said that, so I hear you're Jehovah's Witness. And I said, yes. And he said, what I'd like to do, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to spend some time with you to show you some things that Jehovah's Witness organization does not allow their people to see, and they're never going to tell you about it. And I thought, what the heck is this? I just met this guy and he's saying this, but the light went off. And I said, when my wife said, go out and talk to somebody, and I told her that I would, even though that I lied, thinking that I'm never going to do that, I thought this was a great opportunity to bring him home to discuss this. And so that's what happened. To make a long story short, Greg came over to my house, and he spent countless hours, and I believe that it was like 7 hours. He went home, it was like midnight. But I knew that there was, from that first initial meeting with Greg Meeks, that there was definitely something wrong, and I started to question my elders at the Kingdom Hall. And from that, from the starting of the questioning, week after week, I was told not to ask these questions, until finally we had one last meeting, and they had two experts from outside the Jehovah's Witness organization who had all their original books Watchtower wrote, and they had all these prophecies on it. And then we had two of the elders that I was studying with. And after that meeting, which never even the completion of the meeting, it broke down, because the elders from that I was studying with just looked at me and said, we don't want anything to do with you anymore, you're dead to us, never call us. And they never even let them take the books out of their bag that they had, to show them of their own writings to prove that their prophecies never came to pass. And these prophecies stated that Jehovah God had told them. So they just left, and my heart was crushed. These were my best friends. And I knew that there was something very, very wrong, and I started to search out. Now, to make a long story short, I don't want this YouTube videos to turn out to be a 20-part series, but a course of time passed. I believe it was about 2 or 3 weeks, and I had nowhere to go. I lost my best friends. They wouldn't answer my phone calls. They wouldn't let me talk to them from the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I chose to go back. I talked to the pastor, Greg Meeks, and I started to go to his church at Calvary Chapel. And 2 weeks into going to church at his church is when I had a dream that came at 4 o'clock in the morning. Because I remember, because at least when I woke up and I looked, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning when I woke up from that dream. And so at first in the dream, Jesus came to me, and even in the dream I never saw Jesus' face. Just the figure Jesus came. I just knew that it was Jesus, and he gave me instructions, and he told me that I want you to take all the information that I have given to you out of the dresser drawers and go to the kitchen table, and I will meet you there.